how are we not talking enough that parrots can talk? You can be in the best job, in the best flat with the best partner, but if you're not happy inside, then it's not going to affect you. I remember it was Halloween, and it would have been 2016. There were 4 guys dressed as Grim Reapers, and the MC was like, why are you dressed up as Grim Reapers? And they went, because we're here for comedy deaths. You stole that from Sean Locke. Boo! 400 people in the comments, boo! Car, bang! But then I'll meet someone who's from Spain. And they'll be like, I love your video, they're so funny.
Get that mental health bollocks out of the way, mate. We talk about rugby and football.
To laugh at death is the most refreshing thing I think you can have in your day.
Hello and welcome to the Behind the Screens podcast with me, Curtis.
Me, James.
Today we are joined by a very, very funny guest. Not to, set the bar too high too early, but we're joined by Ali Woods. How you doing, mate?
I actually asked for 3 berries, but that is a shame. So, Elena, you're fired. Thank you so much for having me. Behind the Screens podcast.
Great to have you on.
I had to remember what it was called then. It's a fantastic honour to be here with you, Curtis and James.
7th guest.
7th guest, lucky 7th, and the final one. That's nice, isn't it? Once you cancel this pod.
What are you going to do?
What am I going to do?
Yeah,
you can't reveal what's going to happen, man. That's the nature of it. Unfortunately, it's all going to be visual, so I hope you're watching on YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel. Put it at the start.
Rate us on Spotify. Video podcast now
5
available
stars.
on Spotify.
Keen. Don't rate me. That's what a
5
loser.
stars only, please.
What a lame move. Who's rating a podcast?
Do you know what? He's always asking people to rate a podcast.
No, you got to ask.
Could you?
Stop.
But by the end of the day, I fully expect you to have rated.
What if I just chucked a 1 star up there?
Rated to rated.
Weird guys. Smelly.
You smell a little bit.
All
You smell
publicity.
great. You smell great.
It's good publicity, even
Yeah.
if it's smelly publicity.
I didn't get the memo on the quarter zips. This is my look at that, man. That's good, isn't it?
I knew you
That's
were
a
gonna say
proper
something.
one. That's a proper finance one as well. I thought you guys worked in media.
Well, I dressed the part.
That was you're getting away with
Where's
that.
your
I think.
overshirt?
I know, man. My overshirt. I can't. People come to my tours being like, "We wore overshirts." Like couples would be like, "We wore overshirts for this." I'll be like, "Get away from me."
So for people who don't know, who are you? What do you do?
So I'm a comedian. It's subjective, but that's what I would self-identify as, a comedian who does sketches online and stand-up in real life.
Yeah.
And the main things. I do other things like write, and I smash it on podcasts and stuff. So it's like that sort of things. Yeah, but that's it.
But how did you get into comedy? What was the kind of rising?
Well, it was mainly my dad. My dad definitely had a big influence on me. He was always a big thing about being funny and showing me all these comedy shows when I was growing up. Like, I used to watch Live at the Apollo and Have I Got News for You with him. I just thought it was so cool to be one of these people who did comedy. But I always thought they were just divinely funny people who walked out on stage and just said whatever was on the top of their head that day. And it was hilarious. I didn't understand how you became a comedian. I went to uni, did English literature because I wanted to be unemployed. And so I did that. And then there I started performing comedy for the first time. I did improv. So much fun improv. It was really good, but then I had to stop because I lost my virginity and you can't do it after that. So I did that for a bit. That was my first time on stage, but I was just scared of doing stand-up. And then eventually I got back to London and I was so miserable with my life. I was just like, this is awful. I was working a job I hated. I was living with my parents.
What were you doing?
I don't want to say. No. Well, actually, at that time, I was doing executive search. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Like high-level recruitment stuff. And
I can imagine why you didn't like that.
Oh, mate, horrible. The boss there was a loser. Genuinely, like, he would have one beer, such a lightweight, and then go up to you and be like, so what are you doing to make my company money? That was his hangout. That was his idea of chilled Friday night drinks. One beer. So what are you doing to make my company money? And then whatever you said, he'd go,
Brilliant.
So he was awful. But then I just thought, what do I want to do with my life? And I'd always wanted to do comedy. And I remember telling my mum that I wanted to do comedy. And she was like, no way are you doing that. She's like, if you'd wanted to be a comedian, you'd have been one by now. And I was like, but I love doing comedy. She's like, I love eating biscuits and watching Coronation Street, but no one's going to pay me to do that.
Until Gogglebox came out.
Until Gogglebox, you know what I'm saying? That's exactly. So my dream is to get my mum on Gogglebox. But she was basically like, you need to go and get yourself proper jobs and then we'll see down the line. But basically, so I was doing a day job and then I decided to start doing open mic comedy, just going down to these terrible gigs. And then I just ended up getting more and more into it. And I got a different job and I started to enjoy that a bit more, but comedy was still the thing I wanted to do. I got a shout out at my old job. I worked in PR for 7 years, and they let me go down to 4-day weeks, then 3-day weeks. Like obviously taking pay cuts to be able to just do more comedy, and then I was able to just do it full time because of that.
What was the moment where you felt like this is actually going to take off, and I've made it a little bit here? To like get to that time when you quit your job.
I don't know, it's tough, man, because like I think doing comedy, and maybe this is just doing anything that you're passionate about or that's kind of entrepreneurial, you have moments where you feel like it's all come together and you feel king of the world or queen or them. And then after that, immediately you're just like, what's next? What's the next thing? So I remember the first time that I felt like my parents were proud of me. Like first time ever seeing visually your parents being proud of you. I remember it was 2017 at the end of that year. I did the Leicester Square New Comedian of the Year, and it was at the Leicester Square Theatre, 400-seater. I came second. I got £500 and a little certificate. And I remember them looking at me being like, oh, wow, like you maybe you could do this. Like they'd never thought that until then. And then I also remember the big one was just money, man. Like I remember I had a goal in my head of like, when I earn this in 12 months, I'll be able to quit my job. And then I did. And I thought, damn, I'm really here.
Do you feel like you have to break it up into different steps? Like, is there always another goal you want to be hitting, or are you just trying to do the best you can?
I can only say what works for me. There's usually something that is driving me. I usually have some objective, but I'm not the type of person who has like a vision board and it's like, I want to be on Live with the Apollo. Basically, I never get on any of the TV shows. Just at the time when I'm about to get on them, that's when they get cancelled. So my dad was like, oh, shame you didn't get on Mock the Week. I was like, yeah, cheers, mate. So if ever it looks like I might be on the next season of Taskmaster, that show is so finished. No one's watching it. Same with Live with the Apollo. No one's going to watch that, dude. But yeah, I'm not the kind of person who has that, because I don't really believe in... I feel like if you pin your happiness down to achieving one thing, getting one thing, you'll be perpetually unhappy. You've got to enjoy the journey. And so I do try and get myself into that as much as possible. But there's times where I'm like, right, I'm working on a new stand-up show, so I really want to focus on that. Or at the moment, I'm working on this sitcom script. So it's like, right, I've got to put my time into that. I just did a tour, so I'm like, right, I'm going to put my time into that. So I do that. And then I have periods where, the sketches aren't going as well. And you kind of think, this is... And so you think, maybe I've got to just put a bit more effort into that. And then they start going well again, and then you can kind of ride off that a bit. And so yeah, it's constantly moving. But I would say that to anyone, like, if you think your happiness is going to come from when I get this job, when I get into a relationship, when I get this house, if you think, and then I'll be happy. No, it never works like that. Your happiness is an unhappiness. You carry it with you wherever you go. You can be in the best job, in the best flat with the best partner, but if you're not happy inside, then it's not going to affect you.
So as soon as you get something, it's like, wasn't actually that good, was it?
That was the high.
Yes.
That was the high. You get that endorphin rush. Yeah. Great. You get to tell everyone. You get a nice picture on your Instagram. You get loads of likes, or TikTok and Snap for our younger viewers and stuff. But
it's more like the chase of getting there. That's like the exciting bit.
So you always got to. That's why you got to enjoy what you do, because that is the most fun you'll ever have. It's chasing.
Yeah.
What about the downsides? Tell us about the worst gig you've ever done.
It's funny because this is like a common question. I've never the material I do has never been such that I've had like any real fear of like violence or like genuinely like hounded out of places. But I've bombed multiple times. I mean, the one that always comes to me. Do you guys know gong shows? Mm-hmm. So if you're listening and you don't know what it is in comedy, it's basically where like the audience are encouraged to boo you. And you basically have to be too funny that they let you finish. That's kind of what it is. So if the audience get cards handed out, if 3 of those cards go up, then you get booed off. That's it. They hit the gong, you're done. And so the first time I did this at the Comedy Store, I remember it was Halloween, and it would have been 2016, and there were 4 guys dressed as Grim Reapers. And the MC was like, why are you dressed up as Grim Reapers? And they went, because we're here for comedy deaths. Wow. So that was the kind of atmosphere. They each had a pitcher of beer under their seats each, and it was a Monday night, right? So that's the kind of vibe we're talking. And, it's just so scary. It's so nerve-wracking. And I went up in the first half, I had quite a good spot, and you're trying to get to 5 minutes. If you can complete 5 minutes, then you've get through to the next round, but they're encouraged to boo you. And I was kind of doing okay. I was doing enough that I was kind of getting by, but I was started with my funniest material, and then it was just getting worse and worse. And eventually I was doing this thing, and this guy, he shouted out, "You stole that!" I go, "What?" And he's like, "You stole that from Sean Locke." And I'm like, "Can you swear on this?"
Yeah.
Fuck off. Immediately. Boo! And 400 people in the crowd. Boo! Car, boom, down, young fucking. And it's half time. I'm just before the break. So now it's the break, and I'm like in tears. I'm trying to get my stuff. I would have been 22 at this point. I'm like trying to get my stuff. I'm trying to leave, but also it's the break. So now all the crowd have got up. So I've got to weave through the crowd. Not only do they think I'm shit at comedy, but they think I'm a joke thief, right? Because this guy has slagged me off for this. I let it go and research it, and it turns out Sean Locke did something similar, but it's not what the bit was or where I got it from. But it was just a horrible feeling. I remember so specifically, I went out back into Leicester Square, and I was just like tears running down my face, and I put my headphones in, and the first song that came up was "Start Me Up" by Rolling Stones, which is like such a positive song, and now forever that song is just tinged with failure.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, and that's when you start off like that, and you're having your gigs are good and bad and terrible and great and all that. I just thought I'm never going to be able to do comedy. That's it. I just thought so vividly then. I was like, I'm terrible. I'm shit. No one's going to ever want to see me. I've got to quit. And then you just have those moments, and then you just wake up the next day and like, I've got to do it again.
Yeah. Was it as simple as that? You just wake up the next day, forget about it, or
Do you still remember what that guy looked like?
I never met the guy. I never, because it was just a shout in the darkness. There's 400 people there.
Sorry about that,
Shouting
mate.
in the darkness. Yeah, but that's it. Could have been. But it's just a shout in the darkness, and then that's it. You just have to deal with it. So I don't know who that person was. In terms of your question about, is it simple as that, just doing it again? For me, a critical point in my life was when the fear of not doing it became greater than the fear of doing it. So I got a personality test when I was at work. It was for everyone, it wasn't just for me. And in that, it said that Ali likes to live in the fantasy of what could happen instead of try and fail. And it was so true for me. That's what I was doing with stand-up for a while. I was like, well, I'll do a few open mics. I won't really take it seriously. Because then I can always be that bloke in the pub in his 50s going, I could have done that. I could have been a famous comedian. But I didn't want to play the game. You know, all these guys, they weren't that funny. But it's actually, I was just so scared of putting myself out there and really committing to it and then failing. Because what if I'm just genuinely not talented enough and not good enough? But then I was waking up every day looking at this life I had where I was working this job I didn't really care about. I was going out getting pissed and having the same. You know, it sounds fun, and then you're just not even having the same. You're just having the same night. You're not even having a crazy. You're not waking up being like, whoa, we're on a boat. What the hell? Like, this is crazy. You're just like, oh, I went to that same bar with those same people, had the same chats, and the fear of that life was more than the fear of dying again in front of 400 people at the Comedy Store. I would take that 1,000 times, because at least I'm going for something I'm passionate about, rather than just waking up in an existence that I look around and think, what's the point of any of this? Am I even happy with this?
What's like been the best reaction from somebody that's ever like listened to your comedy or heard you?
I think you get it two ways. I think you get, for me, there's gigs that you just do and you smash, and it's just great, and you've connected with the crowd.
And just on that, do you know very quickly if it's going to be a good gig?
I think now, yeah, I know more. And also now, which is weird, I know when I'm watching the comments go before me, and the audience are laughing, and they're having a good time, and I can tell I'm thinking, I think it's going to be tricky. And that's something I didn't used to get, because I see what they're laughing at now more, or what they're finding funny.
right?
You can, very easily tell early in a gig if it's going to be good. That doesn't mean it can't change.
Yeah.
You could say something could happen that could change the whole gig.
Sorry to interrupt you. Have you got something like in your back pocket that you pull out if it's going wrong? Is there like a little tide turner?
Well, I used to, when I started, have material that I feel was stronger, that I'd be like, right, okay, I'll go into this bit quickly if it feels going bad. But now I do that less because I'm more comfortable on stage. Sure. I'm going, well, if you don't like it, it's fine. Like, I know I'm more faith in myself as a comedian and the jokes that I do have, that I'm not like, oh God, I need these people in Bracknell to like me. Like, I'm just like, well, if they don't, that's fine. It's okay. Maybe they're not my crowd. Yeah. And I'd rather pursue something that's original and is going to be meaningful when it's in front of the right people than be a comedian who just wants to always do well, but just will debase themselves and reduce what they're doing to the least original, least interesting stuff because they're just trying to appease everyone. Because then you can have good gigs every time and you can be no one's favorite comedian. Because your stuff is just what is it? You're not saying anything. You're not that interesting. You're just doing basic stuff that people will like and eat. And it's the same with there's some food that we'll get, like a sandwich at work that is going to be fine. But you're not like excited to have it. And you could be that as a comedian, and you could be that in any creative pursuit. Yeah. So I don't worry about that as much now.
Love that.
And in terms of like where you get inspiration from, you obviously mentioned before that you grew up watching Live at the Apollo and Mock the Week and that sort of stuff. Who would be your like favorite comedian that you watched growing up?
Well, but genuinely, that was what was so annoying about that. Was genuinely he was. I actually didn't love his stand-up as much. I didn't watch as much of his stand-up, but I loved him on 8 out of 10 Cats, the panel shows. I thought he was so hilarious. I tuned in just to watch him. It was so funny. He was great, and Bill Bailey. Those were my two when I was growing up. Bill Bailey was the first ever comedy gig I went to. My dad took me, and what was really nice was that for his birthday recently, I got to take him to Bill Bailey at the O2. The seats were awful, but what can you do? That was my gift. He was at the back. I was in the front. I was like, "You're in the back, dude." But that was really cool. So those two growing up, I really loved. But then now, as I'm older, I've got more into the Americans. I generally think they're sort of like what is coming out of America is better than UK in terms of comedy for me.
Interesting.
Do you have the same view on sketch comedy? Because obviously it's quite interesting, the juxtaposition. You've got your stand-up, you've got your sketch stuff with your socials. Was there something you took inspiration from on the kind of sitcom, sketchy side of things?
Well, I mean, again, growing up, I used to watch sketches. I loved Armstrong and Miller. And I'm actually working now with someone who worked on that, which is really cool to have that come round, like that full circle. But then this online sketch comedy is so different to that, man. Like, I mean, I grew up watching TV sketch shows where it was long form. You had recurring characters and jokes, and you would wait a while for the sketch to play out and stuff. Whereas online, man, I mean, you can really look through sketch comedians' profiles that are big names, loads of followers, and genuinely think, oh, originality's dead. Like genuinely, you could not have an original thought or joke and get millions of followers now online. But it's because you're good at what you do it in a good way. But I mean, this is kind of going off on a tangent, but this is something I've been thinking about recently, like the way TikTok has changed the concept of owning a joke. When I was growing up and doing stand-up, your IP, your own joke, your material is all you had. That's what gives you value. Whereas now, people do a good joke online, and then everyone just takes it. They just do that, and some of them credit you. And that's at least something, because it's so easy to do.
Do you see a lot of people copying your stuff?
I wouldn't say my stuff. I mean, it happens. It happens naturally. But it's just, there's definitely profiles I know where, because they're in such a content drive, they're just posting all the time. They'll just lift stuff from other people. And now people are like, I loved your take on this meme. That wasn't a meme. That's not a take on that. You've just stolen, someone else has thought of a really funny concept and you've just stolen it. But enough people have stolen that it becomes just universally owned. So now I'm trying to, with that, in terms of my inspiration, I always look out for who's doing really fun and original stuff. I was saying this to Elena, who's my agent over there, and she's great, by the way. Yeah, she's great. She's really good. Not very funny, but she's really good at the emails and stuff. I don't really do a bit too day to day for me, but I was saying this earlier, is that it's what's great is you can be online and you think originality is dead, and then you see people doing these incredibly fun, interactive, enjoyable sketches online still, and getting loads of likes and views. So there's definitely space out there. I try and take inspiration from them because I'm very jealous of that. I feel like I wish I could do more of that sort of stuff.
Do you think there's an element of TikTok algorithms and people chasing the same structure of a piece of content that then leads into you chasing the same structure of a joke? Do you think that's why it feels very samey and not enough?
100%. It rewards you for repeating your template. Do you remember that guy? He used to do North London, South London, West London, East London, different reactions, different. Okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
The different accents he would do.
He would do different accents or different, like, oh, this is what a delivery drive would be in North London.
Probably
West London,
I've
East
seen
London.
it. Yeah.
Well, exactly. He was everywhere for like a month doing that template because that's what it rewards you. He's probably still got more followers than me. Where is he? What happened to these people? Maybe he's changed. I don't know. But that guy was on my feed for ages, for like a real, like loads.
Joke.
And then, because it rewards you for doing that. People like that. You're that guy. Because it wants you to fit into a little hole in the internet. You're the person who does that. And I've always rallied against that. And that's tougher to grow. So it will reward you for repeating templates, for sure.
I was about to ask you, what are you the person that does that, but you immediately said you rally against that.
Oh, but this is a weakness of mine. But this is a genuine well, it depends how you do, but this is a weakness of mine when it comes to building or growing quickly online. Because I'm not the guy who does one thing. People know me for different stuff. I can spot it a mile away. When I see it on my tours or on the tube, I was going southbound on the Northern Line, bloke comes up to me in a quarter zip. Mate, mate, your videos are very humorous, by the way. Ben works in insurance. Where'd he get off? Clapham Common. Of course he did. And I know why he knows me. He doesn't know me for this weather stuff that I've done. But then I'll meet someone who's from Spain. And they'll be like, I love your video. They're so funny. And they know me because of my British humour stuff. They're like, oh, my colleague, he's so British. And then that's what they're saying. So I've got a few various... And then there's some people who just know me from stand-up. And they're like, I loved your show.
Where's the most random place you've been spotted? Or like someone come up to you, I love your stuff.
Internationally is the weirdest one.
Yeah.
Internationally.
Spanish accent there?
Was it?
I don't know.
Mine wasn't Spanish, so don't worry about it. I don't know why, I just do whatever. It is, internationally is the weirdest one, man. When you're in a foreign country and I remember I was on a stag do in Hamburg and we were just partying, and this was like a year and a half ago. And this lady came up to me and was like, are you Ali Woods? I was like, what? This is wild, man. This is wild. But I mean, so internationally is really, and being spotted like in New York, in America and things like that, that's when it's, I think, the coolest. Yeah.
Have you had any bad interactions out and about with fans or not fans? What would they be?
Well,
haters?
Yeah. Well, Curtis, I'll tell you, if I wanted quality of life, I wouldn't want to get any more famous. This is the perfect level of fame. Only people who know me are people who like me. No one comes up being like, I saw you on that thing, you were shit. Like, they either go, oh, I've seen your videos, man. Oh, yeah, good. Or they're like, who? Who's that? I don't know. So
Swipe past.
Yeah, but literally, I don't have, because I'm not a household name, I'm not truly famous. I'm not in any way a topic of discussion or debate. So I get to live a life where the only interactions with people who come up and are nice. What I'll say is, on a night out, sometimes you get people, they don't want to leave you alone a little bit. Yeah. And I've had fans who are a bit odd in that way,
Free drinks, though.
Well, you got to watch if those drinks are fizzing.
Very true.
Genuinely, I've had that before where you're kind of like, I'm not sure I want this shot, but thank you. Good, because, I posted on my story, I was here and suddenly you're there. Okay, interesting, weird.
And what would you say, like, in terms of your comedy, where do you, like, what sector does it fall on? Is it like culture? Is it just like topical stuff? Like, where do you feel like you sit?
Again, this is a problem because I don't feel like, I'm still trying to work out what my voice is and my tone. Because I want to have a variety of videos, but I want it to feel like an Ali Woods video, but I'm not sure what that is. I think what people have said to me is relatability, which is so weird as well because I've so often felt like I wasn't invited to the party. So it's so strange that people have said like, oh, I like your videos because they're so relatable. But I think that's probably what I want to go for. I want to go for comedy that is about the human experience. That people go, that's so me, that's so my friend.
The one I watched before this was the one when you get led to the table at a buffet.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, yeah, so true.
That's fun. That's just a fun one that, is that exactly, like a relatable human experience. They're the ones that I really enjoy. But then also, to be fair, the ones I also enjoy is when I criticize some aspect of society that I genuinely feel a bit more passionate about. And then when that goes well, I go, oh, good, other people feel the same. Yeah. Because so much of my life and the way my brain works, I felt so outside of it that I've just been observing stuff. And when I do these videos and people like them and they comment, they go, this is me, I like this or whatever, I feel like I'm genuinely connecting with people that I never got a chance to connect with before. And doing these sketches has allowed me to basically feel vindicated for like, oh, I'm not as weird as I thought.
I feel like your stand-up's really similar in the observational side, though. It's kind of you deliver your line and it always seems to take like a second or two and then everyone's like, oh yeah, that is the actual thing. How do you even like pick those out? Like, how do you sit there and think, this is a funny thing, this is a funny thing? What's the process like?
Do you ever pick on people in the front row?
No, I don't like to do that. It's funny how, just on quickly on that one, it's funny how people's view on what stand-up comedy is has changed so dramatically in the last 5 years because of the nature of the internet and the way, because if you do crowd work, those are clips that you can put up and it won't burn any of your material. People can still come to your shows. And people think that's kind of what stand-up is. I prefer not to pick on anyone.
So the only one I think of is the Paul Smith guy from Liverpool. I don't like the comedy, but it just seems to be all over my timeline all the time.
100%. He was one of the early champions of that, and that's kind of what people think it is. But I think I'm not gonna lie. I think that's a bit of a phase. I do think so. I don't. And what I'm seeing now is funny because stuff that's going viral. Sometimes the comedian's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
They're just filming everything. And something happens in the crowd. Wait, what? You're sitting next to your ex-wife and her new boyfriend and you didn't know you were going to be out tonight? It kind of doesn't even matter what the comedian does at that point. It's just fun video to watch. And I do wonder how much that actually profoundly impacts these comedians' careers because I want to create long-form stuff and that will be shows, that will be specials that people will watch and hold dear. You know, no one's favourite special is like a... Oh, do you remember this 40-second clip of this guy calling the person in the front row a pedo? Like, no one's going to be like, oh, let's all gather around and watch this. Like, that's, it's good disposable stuff, but I think eventually it will come back to that. And, you know, I see it as a trend with these with my peers, with these much more successful people than me online, short-form video makers. And then they get into the TVs and the studios and they're like, yo, you've got millions of views, people love you, you got it, what you got for us? And they're like, I don't know. They're like, oh, isn't it weird how men and women are different in relationships? Yeah, what can we do with that? So I think it always comes back to what long form stuff can you do? And then on your point, the material stuff, I mean, everyone's got their own process. But what I do is I just write, if I ever think of any observation, I say this to anyone who's doing anything creative, anytime you have an idea, just write it down because you will forget it. I'll repeat that. You will forget it. So write it down and you come back to it. It could be the weirdest thing, whatever, no one cares. It could be like, why did I think of that? But just have it written down. And then I'll look back on those and think, okay, what of those are funny? And then I'll go on stage and try them out.
If I had your notebook, what is going to be the weirdest thing in there?
Oh, man. I don't know. I mean, my phone's over there, so I don't have it at the moment. I don't know what is in there now. I mean, because there's some weird stuff in there, man. I'm trying to think, because then I wouldn't have tried on stage some of this stuff. I'll just do a light one then, but like I tried, because I did a work in progress recently, and I tried this bit for the first time, and I kind of believe in it, in that how are we not talking enough that parrots can talk?
Yeah.
What? And not even that they're talking, they're listening.
Better than many guests on the podcast.
How is that acceptable? And we're like, oh, this bird I've got.
It's pretty mental when you think
it's
about it.
It's insane. It's them and Scooby-Doo. They're the only two animals. Every other animal can't talk. And I did this for about 5 minutes on stage and no one laughed. But, you know, I think there's something in it.
Just got to keep repeating it and you might get there. More on your stand-up. Mental health is, particularly in the special that I listened to, is a big theme throughout. I want to just understand a little bit more about how you found your place with mental health and comedy, because there is a real juxtaposition between the two, but I think you find a really nice way of delivering a really serious point and then breaking the room, making it light and making it more relatable and still staying on message. I don't know why I've gone through the long explainer of what your comedy is, but...
That's nice. Sounds good to me, man. It's better than I would say it.
But why did you introduce kind of points on mental health into your comedy? Do you feel like there's a responsibility for you to be addressing these sorts of topics?
I don't think I'm responsible for it. I kind of get a bit of the ick with any comedian who thinks they're like the prophet on any particular topic. I just wanted to talk about it. That's all it was. I mean, the experience of that special, particularly just that experience that I'd gone through with my friend in that couple of years, that's just what I wanted to discuss. I think if I am not an expert in it, so I just can only say my experience with it. And going back to an earlier question, I don't think I ever actually recapped it in terms of the best response. That's the other side. So you get those gigs where you smash it and it's great and everyone's money, but you get ones where you just feel like you've genuinely helped someone out or like made their lives a bit better by doing comedy for them. Like they've just, and the one was that like another comedian, she said a friend of hers I'd never met, she didn't recommend this, but he just watched that special and he's like big rugby lad. And then he's like, it said it profoundly changed his life. Like he's been going therapy. It's like genuinely, and that's a wonderful thing that if I can finish my life and at the end of it have just had a net positive effect on other people, even if it's just +1, I think that's an amazing thing to have done.
Absolutely. For those who are listening who haven't heard that story, are you able to give us a quick abridged version?
It's been out there for like a year and a half, so anyone can go watch it. But it's basically just about in my experience in lockdown with one of my best mates who, it transpired, had been suicidal for years and hadn't expressed that. And so me and him were just stuck in this flat together going through lockdown. And as you can tell, it's pretty hilarious stuff. And but yeah, it's something I just really wanted to talk about. And that's what I love comedy as a cathartic thing, because so many other mediums, you guys, you know, you work in a creative industry, but it's hamstrung by the business side of it, where you have to work with brands who will have to make you stay on message at some point. And whereas comedy, the catharsis, I really think it comes from the fact that you can talk about really dark, really tough parts of life in a funny way. And to laugh at death is the most refreshing thing I think you can have in your day, to just have really be worried about something. I mean, you'll have had that with your friends where you're telling them you're really upset about something, you're chatting about something, you're really stressed about, whatever, and they make a joke about it and it makes you laugh and it just dispels that tension. I think that's a beautiful thing. I won't tell you if he lives or dies because that's a spoiler. So that's for the audience to decide. It is an interactive show.
How did it all come out about your friend with mental health? You mentioned you were stuck in a flat together. Was it just like a conversation that happened, or was it?
Well, I did too much of his story, I suppose. But certainly, at that time, it was just before COVID, and I got a call from his sort of then girlfriend, basically asking if he was okay, and she wanted to tell me why. And so I sort of. And then I started the conversation. I was like, what's up, mate? You all right? And stuff. I just got a weird call. And then, we just started chatting about it. Because I'm a millennial man and I'm working on this joke at the moment about how we're the first generation of men who understand that it's important to have a mental health conversation, but we're not going to have it. Like, it's weird. Like, but someone should, but I'm not going to do that, and we're like that. Like, we and him, we're both quite emotional, soft guys. But we would never talk about that sort of stuff because it's just icky, weird. And eventually it made me realize that if you're a true friend to someone, you've got to be able to chat about those sort of things.
How old are you?
31. Oh, I've got to say I'm fake one. 24. What was I going to say, Elaine? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just similar.
What, how old are you
35.
Guys? 35?
Yeah.
35?
Yeah, 36 next week.
Jesus, man.
My
What
dad-
moisturiser are you using?
Well, I won't make the joke.
28.
28? Wow.
Tough paper round for me.
But you're in charge, it feels like.
I'll let him
Isn't
have
that
it.
weird? Oh, I'm not looking at the 16-year-olds over there. You're older than him.
Day, I think a day. Yeah.
Are you?
No, you're not.
Wow, you learn something new every day.
But I'm
He
in charge,
is
so-
lying. That's a liar. There's no way. You get your driving
it a lie?
license out, Tom. There's
he's
no
a day older
way.
than me.
Is that a lie?
No, he's a day older than me. Yeah. I was shocked.
That is insane.
I feel like that's the end of the podcast.
You could do what's the hair transplant for your face? Do they do that? Because you got loads.
Oh, I've got hair to go round.
Yeah.
Back hair?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Good for you, Tom. Don't worry about your moisturiser. You've got some deal with the devil going on.
I honestly can't believe it.
There's no way. There's no way. But that's what happens if you don't do any work. That's look how youthful he looks. Not a wrinkle, not a
No
line.
stress.
And when
He's
you're in
never
charge-
stressed. You know what I mean? Then someone's actually making things happen. It's look at the ravages of time.
That's bad.
Brilliant.
What was the question we had then?
Absolutely no idea.
We were talking about men's mental
that's it,
health, which I
that's
think
it.
we solved. But you were asking me how old I was.
Yeah, that was it. Okay.
Well, I'm glad to hear we've solved men's mental health. So
Done.
thanks.
Someone
for
had
that.
to.
Appreciate you taking the time to do that. You're on tour. You have been on tour. Tell me about it. What's
it like to be on tour?
Yeah, what is it
Yeah.
like? Do you eat rubbish junk for breakfast? Are you partying all night? Is it rock and roll?
But the first night you go smash it, and then I'm not doing that again.
And then you're off to Didcot the next day. And
Yeah, man. Well, I wish I could play Didcot. It's my first experience with it, so I've only got the one to say what it's like. And to be honest, it was kind of spread out over 2 months, and it was like 21 dates or something, so it wasn't too bad. There were weeks where I was doing sort of like 3 or 4 in a row, and then I'd have a few days and then do one, and then a few days and do one. So it wasn't that heavy. This is also a thing of stand-up comedians. It's like footballers. I don't know if you guys are into football, but I think there was a time
Yes.
when
Yes,
you guys know.
Who do you support?
Like finally the legend. Come on, we got a proper podcast, Shalana, mate. None of these. Get that mental health bollocks out of the way, mate. We talk about racking football, corners, offsides, and all that shit. I don't support anyone.
Just support the sport.
No, I do support someone, but I won't discuss that this time. That's, I think, banned from the podcast, so we can't say that. But no, it's not sport. I'm not.
it's not that much of a dirty word.
It's embarrassing. But yeah, so but it's like that. Like, there was a time in the 90s where footballers would drink a bottle of whiskey the night before and then go in and win the Premier League. You know what I mean? Like, it was crazy, like the way. But now they're all supreme athletes who, some of them like sober, they don't ever drink. And
It's more like they're too scared of getting caught with social media and phones and
yeah,
stuff.
well, that is well, right. So, but it's with comedy, it's similar. It's like a lot of comedians are sober. They like won't be drinking heavily because you're in bars all the time. So the novelty's off. The novelty, like you're like, whoa, you get free drinks. It's like the first time you do that, you're like, this is sick. But 10 years down the line, I don't care. So it's the same with my tour. Where, like, a lot of times, you have to travel and then go there and you have to set up and do the tech stuff and find the venue, and maybe trains are delayed and stuff, and then you're going out trying to get something to eat quickly and coming back. And because normally in a stand-up show you get there and you can get there like 20 minutes before you're on stage. You do 20 minutes and then you can just leave. But here you're like there for 4 hours at the venue, and then you do the show, and my show's like 70 minutes, so you kind of do that, and then by the end you're a bit knackered, so you just go back to the hotel and just hang out, chill out, man. It's pretty dull.
Is it like the same material every single night, or do you sometimes switch out with different things?
On this tour, it's the tour show. So I was working on it until I recorded my special. I recorded my special at the Hackney Empire, and that was the 6th show in this tour. And then I had another 15 or so dates after that. So in those 15 days, I wasn't changing. I wasn't working on it anymore. I was working on new stuff. So I was doing the show as it was, and that again was a bit creatively unfulfilling. But I was happy, proud of the show. So when I would do it, the response was really great.
Nice.
What's the worst or weirdest venue you've played?
Private parties are always terrible. They're so bizarre, man. Like when you play people's birthdays.
I didn't even know that was a thing you could do.
It really is, man. I've gone and done people's birthdays or corporates. Man, it was funny. I did what was it? It was like not the e-commerce expo, but it was something like
Sounds
that, man.
riveting.
Yeah, in it. And it was honestly, there was no other entertainment on before me or anything. I was on after like the CTO of some e-commerce thing. And then they went, all right, so we're going to end the day with some comedy. So here's Ali Woods.
How does that happen? Why have
Someone
they
just
picked
gone,
you?
I think that's a good idea.
Literally, that is it. The social sec person, whoever that is like, they follow me on Instagram and they go, you know what, like, I think it'd be really banter to get this guy down and do
Get him down at the buffet.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I think he'd be hilarious. They've never seen me live. They've seen me online. And then, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Then they send me the fee, and I'm like, what time do you want me there? And then I get there, and then it's just a case of, right, we'll see how it happens. But you know what, these as well, you go on, you start doing your set, and people are like, what? Like, so, but then you start slagging them off, and you find out who the boss is, you start slagging him off. I was just slagging off all the companies. I was like, that's a shit logo, that's terrible. And they lap it up. And they were like, and the feedback's like, we're so thankful you tailored it to our audience. I'm like, that's genuinely how I felt. I felt like this is a whole nonsense. You're not. This is. Yeah, but they were loving it. So
On your tour, how many people are like watching you in attendance?
Well, at the show,
Yeah,
shows.
at the show,
I
yeah.
mean, it varies. I mean, the smallest audience I probably had, Belfast was probably like 40, and then Hackney Empire was like 1,000.
Yeah.
So it varies, but I'd say average was probably around the 100 mark in each of these venues. Yeah.
Amazing. Love that. You also supported Russell Kane and Axel Blake. What sort of numbers was that? Was that like a whole different world? Or?
I mean, it's funny. That's what doing Hackney Empire for myself was a nice thing for me because, yeah, when I was doing their shows, it was that size of venue. So I was doing like the Lowry in Manchester, I think it's 1,200, and I did a couple for Russell, and I think they were like 1,100. And Hastings, the
Birthplace.
Oh, really? So you know how many seats are in the theatre in Hastings?
Is there 1066?
1066.
Is there?
That's how many
cool.
seats they have in that theatre.
Nice.
Because they never fucking shut up about that. And but yeah, this is. But so those sides of going out there and this was before I was a full-time comedian, and going out to those audiences was like, wow. And I'm so grateful to those guys for letting me open for them. And that was the thing on my tour. My agency were like, oh, we'll get you someone from the agency to open for you. I was like, no, I want unsigned people because there are really funny people who are working really hard and they don't get those opportunities. And I know they're funny. And I gig with them and I asked them and they smashed. They were great. And so I always am grateful to those guys and I want to continue that.
How did Russell, for example, find you? Like, I'm so intrigued into kind of like the backwaters of comedy. Like,
I mean, that one's so weird. You know what? So much of it is, you know, that thing about, was it 95% of success is turning up? So much of it is like that with comedy, where you just got to keep getting out there and keep gigging. I was doing a gig at Top Secret in London, which is a great venue. And this would have been, I don't know, 2021. And the producer of his podcast was in, and they had a dropout that week for their guest. So he just saw me and thought I was funny and said, like, can you do tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, I'll do. And again, this is when I had a day job, and I was like, put a meeting in the calendar. I was like, I'll go on this podcast with Russell Kane and the lady from British Bake Off. And then I did that, and Russell, just being a nice guy, was like, oh, thanks so much for doing that. If there's anything I can do, let me know. And I was like, well, you know, it'd be great to open for you at some point. He's like, yeah, don't worry, I'll do that as well.
Do you ever think he was like, nah, it's never going to happen?
But honestly, I did kind of think, well, I'll just say it.
He's being polite.
You know what I mean? Exactly. And I just followed up with him because I was like, how'd you do this? I messaged me. So I messaged him on Instagram. I was like, you know. And then he messaged back like, yeah, we'll sort it. And again, didn't get a message for a while. I was like, And then just randomly in my inbox, just got an email from people at his agency being like, yeah, love to get you to open for Russell. Can you do these dates? It's like, sick. He is well known for that, though. He's got other friends of mine who've opened for him, and he's great. And he was really lovely and really into comedy. Like someone who's been doing it like 25 years or whatever, has had so much success. Who's on his tour, he's doing these 1,000-seater theatres in random places. And but was so into comedy. So I had another friend, this is how good he is, I had another friend who opened for him, and he didn't do great. He did fine, but he didn't do great. And he was a bit down about it, and Russell came up to him afterwards and be like, look, mate, like, you know, they'll remember you more than they remember me. The stuff you do is so original. And, you know, they'll remember that bit you had, and they'll be talking about that with me. I'm just talking about, you know, marriage and going out and stuff. They went, and it's like, he doesn't need to do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter if he believes it, right? But he could not talk to that guy again. He could just, some people do that, right? Or he could just go, cheers, mate, and then be like, never put that guy again, whatever. But he's taken the time to make that new comic feel better about their set. Yeah. And that's an amazing thing to do. And he's lovely for that.
I like that. And like when you, like the show you just did, the tour, and there was 1,000 people there for you, that must have felt incredible, right? You're coming out on stage and they've bought tickets to come and see you.
Yeah, it's mad.
What does that feel like?
That's the thing I had to get over with comedy, and it might be the case with anyone who's doing any sort of entrepreneurship or some creative, that you get, at the start, you're like, oh God, if anyone just saw it, I'd be embarrassed or whatever. And then you're like, oh, if anyone paid for it, what the hell? That's so weird. And you have to get over that imposter syndrome. I remember the first time feeling comfortable that, oh yeah, people have paid for this, because like they should. Like, you know, it's like, that, yeah, because I'm doing a good enough performance. Because for years I didn't feel like that. I felt like I'm conning people. And that, going out into that theatre and kind of seeing how many people were there, and I didn't realise how brightly lit it would be. I thought I'll be lit, of course, but it'll be just a black abyss that I'll be looking out into. But no, I could see so many of the seats. and just, it's rare that nowadays I get intimidated by a gig, but when I went out there and we were filming it as well, and I was genuinely like, God, this has got to be good. And the first half of that show, I was not even in it. I was in my head. I was not even in it. I was just like, don't fuck up, don't fuck up, don't fuck up. That's all that was going on in my head. Second half, I could relax. And the show was going great. It was going well, but that was pretty wild. And then the show finished. I got a standing ovation and they applauded for ages and ages. And there's few times in comedy where you get a moment where you genuinely think like, so I was talking about the start, where you're like, this is the result of my hard work. I'm getting to see it. And I was like, this is great. This is what all the hard work's for. And that was very cool.
Nice.
Love that.
And do you think social media's helped you? Like to become more renowned and people more interested and know who you are?
Oh, massively, man.
Yeah.
It's what people are doing. I mean, there was a time when I started doing comedy, it was all about doing well at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and getting picked up by TV channels and stuff. And now those channels are trying to get people's followers online.
Yeah.
Social media is the way to go. And what I love about social media is the democratization of, how to put this, of your success, I guess, of success. It champions the hard workers. When I was doing comedy, there were people who were riding the gravy train. They had a good face for comedy. They were doing with the right producers. And but it's true. Yeah. And I don't do with anyone. I do it on my own, just before I go to bed. So
ideal sleeping drink.
Ideal, mate. So I relax, take the edge off. So we'll cut it out, Elena. We'll cut it out, Elena. We'll cut it out.
That's the Patreon only version.
So she's pressing the buzzer on my shock collar. I mean, I love social media and I love brands. Is my thing. But that was it. And now you are able, because you got a smartphone, you got access to the internet, you can get 1 million followers. That's all you need. You don't need any more than that. And so it's beautiful for that. And that helped me. In COVID, I didn't have an agent. I had nothing. I had a day job. I was just trying to make comedy my full-time thing. I wanted to do sketches. I was always scared to do them because I just felt like, what do my friends think? Oh my God, how cringy is this? Can you, this is so other comedians be like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. I was so scared to do it. But in lockdown, there was nothing else going on. I had a suicidal friend. I was like, come on, mate, you're off work. Because so he's off work, so he can help me. So we were just started making sketches and stuff. And I had people, my peers, other comedians sitting around waiting for their agent to get them a writing job. I've never had that luxury. The social media changed my fortunes, changed my life. Suddenly, coming out of lockdown, I was doing these shows. I had people come to the shows, never happened to me before. They come to the shows and they love me. They like who I was and they were so excited to see me. I'd never had that. It was incredible. And so it's been a huge thing for me. And I say that to anyone, like the internet is your friend and there's space for everyone. Like, honestly, you can so easily get caught up and you open your phone, oh, this person's doing well, this person's doing well, but there's space for everyone, man. People are never short of wanting to watch good stuff. So don't worry about it. Just make yourself, and please do not worry about what your friends think of it or your peers. I got this advice. Your friends aren't going to pay your mortgage. Don't worry about them. Real people who enjoy your stuff, that's who are going to be your fans, and that's who you can reach. So don't let the judgment of your friends going, embarrassing, because what's more embarrassing?
Yeah.
Living a life that you don't care about? Doing a job that you hate? No. Go and do the cringy video. Be shit. Start, be shit. You will be shit, most likely. And then you just got to improve and get better, and you will.
What was the first video you put out?
So I used to do, you know what, this is aging me. These guys, well, I mean, he's saying he's 30, but I know he's 19. But so I used to do long form, well, not long, I say long form, like 1 minute, 42 minutes, landscape videos for like Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah, this is like the start of 2020 in the lockdown. That's what I was doing. That's what I was focusing on. I put them on YouTube and Facebook. And
how did that go?
I mean, I loved it. There's some of those videos I still think, there's one of those specifically I still think is one of the best things I've ever made. But in terms of going viral, come on. No chance, man. No chance. And so the first, to be fair, I made one, the first one I did was like the first house party after lockdown. And that actually, for what I had, did well. But no chance of like growing your followers or whatever.
Are you bothered about followers and numbers? Do you like get into the nitty gritty of it and look at engagement and stuff on your TikTok?
I'd love to say that I'm not bothered by it, but I am. The amount I'm bothered gets less as I go on. Because it's all perspective. You see people who have a bajillion followers and you go, their life is amazing. They can do whatever they want. And you meet them and they can be miserable. They can be like, well, if I don't have the silly hat on my head, then no one watches it. I don't want to be the silly hat guy. And that's all they do. And they want to have all these other things. You meet other people, they have half as many followers as me. They sell more tickets to their tours because their community is engaged. They have people who really love what they do. So it's all perspective. It depends what you want out of it. I'll be honest, I'm never someone who has been someone who looks at the stats of each video, how many followers I got from there, which countries it was. I need people to do that for me because I'm not a details person. I hate that. I hate digging into that. I just want to make stuff. That's all I want to do. But I think that does really, really help you if you do that.
I think it's interesting as well hearing you talk about the numbers and the absurdity, really, of social media numbers. Because the one thing you've said that really sounded like it meant something was the 1,000 people in the audience. You compare that to 15 million on a TikTok. Do you feel like the numbers are just like, it's not real? Like, they're not real people?
It doesn't feel real. I have a video on Instagram that has 1.3 million likes. So that's a country of likes.
Which country?
I don't know, some small one. Someone I wouldn't go to a few people. I don't know. But it's genuinely, that's the scale you're talking about. So what? What is immaterial?
Yeah.
What can I do with that? I don't know what that is. I don't know. And it's just people who just like your stuff. And I'll chat to other creators about this. And they'll say the same thing. You'll get a bajillion likes on a video. If you didn't care about making the video, if it's not your sense of humor, it doesn't really mean anything. It used to. You'd be like, first time I went viral, what the hell? First time I went viral, I did a video. I thought I walked down the street. I'd be like, I probably can't even walk down the street. Everyone's going to be like, whoa, it's the guy who did that video this week. It doesn't matter. And then the more you do it, the video that you did, which is like 6 seconds long, which gets 15 million views. Yeah, was it that original? Was it what I wanted to do? I'm glad that it made people happy. And I'm glad I maybe got me a few more followers out of it. But also, do these followers just want me to do that? And it's the videos that you really care about. That overshot video that you mentioned at the start, that was something that I've had as an idea for ages. I even said to you and Lena, didn't I, as a brand, I was like, a brand could do this. And she was like, I don't think it's really... Yeah, she,
Could have been a great M&S video, that.
It's her job. You know what I mean? But genuinely, I was like... And then I was like, I got to do this. And I started working with a videographer. And I was like, this is a video I've wanted to do for ages. And I've not had the means to do it. And so we did it. And when that one started doing well, I'm like, this is my sense of humor. The people who like this will like me. They'll like my stand-up. And it meant so much more to me than other. And I was so glad and when it did well as well. It was great. But even people doing okay and doing decently, that will mean more to me than something that's got 5 times as many views, but is less original.
Are you friends with other... You mentioned like content creators. Are you friends with other people that create content on TikTok?
I wouldn't say friends. I'd say, colleagues, rivals. Yeah, I mean, I think it's skirted over to being friends now, generally. And because it's a very unrelatable career. And so when you meet people who also do it, you are able to discuss very candidly the things you care about and like and dislike and your worries and your anxieties, because it's very hard for people to understand that. I talk to someone, one of my actual home friends or whatever, about my life. What you got to complain about? I've got this shit job I got to go to, and you dick about on your phone for a living, but without these other people, because it's a very isolating and solo experience. You're just in your flat, especially before I started working with other people as much. You're in your flat, videoing yourself wearing wigs, and that's just my OnlyFans. I'm not even talking about my Instagram, but that's all you're doing, and then you meet other people who have that same experience, and they're like, it's weird, isn't it? It's so, it's really nice.
Interesting. How's the OnlyFans going?
I haven't got it off the ground yet. I got to say, it's a hard one to get going. I thought that would be the easy one. I thought that would be the one I'll get loads of money off this, side hustle. Tough.
Not enough
Tough
wigs.
out there.
Not enough wigs.
Yeah. I'm putting the 0 to 2 inches category. I don't think that's fair. That's not a nice category.
For some it is. It might be.
Well, this is what I thought. I thought there's someone out there, but no.
Taking the 0.1% of OnlyFans.
I thought you were going to say 0 point something else there. It's not that small. But yeah, that's it. That's the top percent.
Great transition for me to ask you now. What would the 15-year-old Ali say about you now?
I'd be so happy. I like to think this is my dream. How many people get to do your dream for one night, let alone every day? I wake up and I'm a professional comedian. That will never be lost on me. That will never be lost on me, genuinely. It is, when I was sitting there as this lame kid watching these people who were doing what I wanted to do, I could never fathom. It's like watching someone walk on the moon. It's like,
Didn't happen.
well, exactly. Yeah, that's my point. Well, this is the same studio they did it in, isn't it? It's like I could never fathom that you could. I would be able to do that. And so I think that every day, every time I have a meeting where someone's talking to me about comedy or wants to work with me, every time I do a gig, I thought that COVID made that so crystal clear for me. This was before I even became a professional comedian. Every time they say my name at a gig and people start clapping, I take a moment to think, this is your dream. It's what I get to do for a living. It's incredible. So I like to think he'd be right. He'd probably be like, how the fuck did you get so old?
And you mentioned at the start, your mum was like, no, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, my mum, but that's her background. She's from a working class background in Glasgow.
What does she say to you now?
She loves it,
Yeah.
but she loves the money. That's what she loves. She saw my show. I go, did you enjoy it, Mum? She goes, what can I say? It's not for
Counting
me.
how many people are in there.
But literally, that's what she liked. She liked it at the Hackney Empire. When she saw it in Edinburgh, I said, do you enjoy the show? She goes, what can I say? It's not for me. That's my own mum. And then she watched it at the Hackney Empire with her family friends, and I know them as well. And I go, oh, did they enjoy it? I'm like, they loved it because they find you funny. That's how she talks about it. But, as you say, she's in there, she's looking at all the people come into the scene, and she's like, this is good, isn't it? This is good. And she's happy if I'm happy. She's happy if I'm happy, and if I've got enough money that she doesn't need to worry about me.
And what about your dad? You mentioned that he was...
Dad loves it.
Yeah.
There's a fantastic clip with your special where he opens for you and screams your name. Everyone applauds.
Oh,
It's
man.
amazing.
That was beautiful.
Love to see
Yeah,
that.
he introduced me at Leicester Square. So 400 people, first special taping. He introduced me, and that was something that I wanted to do because he's been such a great impact on my life in terms of doing comedy, but just in terms of the man I've grown up to be. What a wonderful father he's been, and he's old. And I just thought, I've always had this moment that's captured together, and it was amazing. But he is, man, he's the opposite. He wants to be involved in everything, man. He's like pitching me ideas to do.
Get him a TikTok.
Literally, I don't want to do that, man. It's dangerous.
Are you worried he'll overtake you?
Yeah, probably would, mate. Probably would. Everyone likes El Tony, man. Everyone likes him, apart from his wife. That's the only one.
Here's a question for you. You've obviously got quite a big following on socials. Would you consider yourself, and there's a word that you're probably going to hate, do you think you're an influencer?
We were having this chat, me and Elena, before, because I think by the definition of what I do, I am, but I'm not an influencer. I'm a comedian. But this is also
What if somebody introduced you on stage, influencer Ali Woods? What would you do?
I can't disagree with them. I genuinely can't, because that is technically, I think by definition, what I do, what I get paid to do. That is it's one of my jobs. But I actually don't think I'm that influential. I don't. I think that's what I need to work on. I need to have more of a community of people who really know me. I'm very reticent to put myself out there. What I can do is that I can make sketches and I can make videos that can get millions of views and likes. I know that. And there's influencers who can't do that. But what they can do, they can post, hey, get ready with me, guys, as I go to this. And people like it. People enjoy it. And people might enjoy it if I did it, but I just feel like, why am I doing that?
I'd tune in.
You should, nah, but why? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? And like the idea that that's what I have to do. And I still have that thing of, why would anyone care? Why would anyone care about this in my life? And the big thing for me is the artificial nature of it. I meet influencers who online, the smiliest, loveliest, happiest people. You meet them, not even that nice. They're not even that friendly. And I got to say that is a minority. I got to say most people, I think, again, because of the nature of social media, anyone can get their phones out and take a picture with you and whatever. And I think most people are quite friendly. But you meet some of these people and they're the most like, guys, well, and they're like, oh, I'm so weird, I do this or whatever. And you meet them, they're the most calculating people you've ever met in your life. They are really smart and they know exactly what they're doing. And you meet them and they're like, they've got the look of a business person. It's like meeting an entrepreneur. Mm. And then you see the video the next day and it's like, I'm so random, blah, you know, and you're like, wow, you can do that. I can't do that. I can't fake it. I don't want to pretend to people that I'm some sort of like, I'm just like you, because I'm not. I'm just not.
You're better.
Well, you say, very well. I don't think a lot of people would agree with that. But I'm weird for doing what I do. I'm very weird for doing that. And that's never lost on me, that I want to do this. So I find it hard to pretend that. But then again, I think there's probably just an insecurity thing for me, is that I'm scared of people getting to know the real me. And I just feel like, yeah, they wouldn't like it. So maybe I just hide.
You mentioned then about it being artificial. I want to know your thoughts on artificial intelligence and comedy. Have you ever used AI, ChatGPT, to help write or finish a joke?
No, never to help write.
No.
I've used it as an experiment, just to be like, write a joke in the style of Ali Woods, see what it's come up with.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Should we do it now?
You can do it now if you want to. I mean, it was weird because it was like, and to be fair, this was probably, we're talking maybe about a year and a half ago when we did it. And so it might be better now because maybe I've got more stuff out there and ChatGPT's better. But yeah, it was weird because at the time it was like, it wasn't necessarily funny, so it was pretty accurate. But it was like the turns of phrases and stuff, you're like, yeah, this is kind of something I might say.
I genuinely feel like it's pretty spot on.
Shall I read it out?
Read it out.
Oh, this is a short one as well. All right, okay.
It's the ending, just feels like how you would do your stand-up.
Yeah, nice. Because the one I had before was like 2 paragraphs. So this is quite a good one. Okay. You ever notice how people who run marathons can't wait to tell you about it? Like, congrats, mate, you've done something impressive. But I don't go around telling strangers, hey, I finished a whole Netflix series in one day. Same stamina, different vibe.
Yeah, I mean...
Curtis, that was very hurtful. He looked at me and was like, this is you, mate. This is your closer.
I think that was actually pulled straight from one of your specials.
I do have a YouTube stand-up video which is about running a marathon. So that is probably it. But that's the sort of stuff that people would do online. That they'll talk to camera and they'll get loads of traction and they'll call themselves a comedian. But if you try to do that on stage, horrible. Try to do that on a Friday night in Birmingham. Death. People don't care about that. That's not funny.
Do you think it'll ever get to the point, though, where it can deal with a Friday night in Birmingham?
It's tough, man, because you just think surely at some point it must get to that. But that's why I think, why I'm talking about going back to doing long-form, meaningful, heartfelt stuff in comedy. Because what a robot can never do, I believe this, is the true human experience. Yeah. It's so complex. So, and I'll say this to anyone who's creating stuff online, like, you have got to do the stuff that is most meaningful to you and that you truly believe in and are passionate about. Yep. Because everything else can be replaced by AI. These people, as I was saying before, who lift ideas off the internet and just do their version of someone else's joke, I would be more worried if I was them about getting replaced. Because they can just be hot. Like a robot, a deepfake can be hot and do a joke that already exists. So you've got to really put yourself out there. And that might mean that it's harder and that might mean that you don't get less traction. But I do think the longer I've been doing this, in the long term, that's what will give you a good career.
It's interesting. It's a good point. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I don't think the creativity of what you put on a ChatGPT, like what they call like quotes, like prompts, they're never going to be as creative as a human mind. There's stuff that you see wherever you get inspiration from that I can't get. So I just don't think it ever gets to that stage. So yeah, that's my point on that anyway.
Yeah.
Do you guys worry about that? Do you worry about AI?
Go on then.
Yeah, I was going to say for me, it's a case of you need to use it, but you don't need to let it take over everything you do. It should be there as a tool. It should be there to help you be more efficient. But when it comes to creativity, I think even if you try and get copywriting in when you're trying to write a social media post, it's not good, and you can tell.
It's even like for stuff like this, you might ask it, can you give me some questions to ask you? And then when it comes back with it, it's like, that's actually pretty shit stuff. So it's always like when we've had a conversation with you, it's just all stuff that's on the fly, come into the head, I actually want to ask you that.
And because that's what people want to listen to.
Yeah.
Because it's like you could just do an AI podcast. You could just do the AI questions and my AI answers. But who's going to listen to that?
We'll cut my AI joke out of that one then.
Yeah.
If I gave you 500 grams of mince,
Jesus. What's this?
what would you do with it?
I thought the last word was going to be there. Mince. All right. 500 grams of mince.
Yeah.
Bolognese. Spaghetti bolognese, obviously. 500 grams of mince. Yeah. Slow cook the onions. Get some wine in there. Get some rosemary and basil and chopped cherry tomatoes. What else will go in there? Some tomato puree. Obviously, I love my bolognese being really tomatoey. And then what you got to do is, you got to put it on a slow cook for at least 80 minutes and just let it be there. And then, whack that. It's nice and soft. And then you whack that with the spaghetti and it's great, man. Bit of Parmesan. I recently went to Italy in Liverpool Street. You know that one?
Yeah.
Great date idea. You go to Italy together and then you go back to one of yours and you cook what you bought. It was lovely. And I've got this fantastic Parmigiano. That's how they say it there.
I did not think we'd get this much out of this question.
Yeah.
I love it.
But 500 grams is perfect for that. You get about 4 portions of good size out of that for me. Yeah, it's beautiful. We Tupperware that up. So you have 1 portion there, Parmesan. You've got 3 portions in the fridge ready to go.
Brilliant. I'm glad that's settled.
Yeah. And if you've got a Le Creuset as well.
Yeah, nice. Like, yeah,
Oh, he's
good.
doing well. He's
Yeah.
doing well for himself.
Doing all right. Elena's doing a good job over there. Don't worry about that.
Who should we get on the podcast?
Depends what podcast you want to have, man.
That you'd like
what's
to hear
your
from?
goal with this podcast? What do you want?
Fame.
Fame. Well, then, get Donald Trump. Get Donald Trump or Elon Musk. But genuinely, if that's what you want.
For me, it's more like good conversations, interesting conversations.
Fun. And I want to remember something, and I feel like you are very kind of pertinent and potent in everything you say. There's a bit of a meaning behind what you do.
Especially
why
the
you do
bolognese
things.
bit.
Yeah. That's the most passionate I got all the whole pod. I'm hungry. That's why we're going lunch after this. Pasta place, hope.
500 grams of mince.
500
Just
grams. That's
for
what I
yourself.
get. Can I get 500 grams of mince raw into me? Yeah, meaningful stuff. I'll tell you who I talked to recently. That I rarely get to talk to someone. Her name is Clover, and I forget if it's Hogan or Brogan, but I met her on. Have you seen Subway Takes? Have you seen their? It's online. It's great. They recently had Lil Nas on there, and they do it on the subway in New York, and they basically just get people on. It doesn't have to be famous people. Just be like, "What's your take?" And just any take on anything. Like, what do you think? Like, I think parks should be banned or something like that. Just random, right?
What's your take?
Yeah. Well, my take on it was I don't believe being too busy is a thing. I don't think you're ever too busy for
Winds
something.
me up when someone says they're too busy.
Too busy. You prioritize what you want to do in your life. And yes, we have commitments, and it depends what kind of person you want to be.
My missus yesterday, I got home and she said, "Oh, such a busy day." And I was like, "What did you do?" She said, "I did this, and this." And then we went to watch Below Deck. We got halfway through an episode the night before. She goes, "Oh, I finished that today." I was like, "What? You're not busy?"
Well, there you go.
You've been sat there watching Below Deck. You
To
liar.
be fair, it's a key part of the day. You can't leave half done.
I was fuming she'd done that as well.
Is her work to watch Below Deck in any way?
No, it's not. She's
She's a TV reviewer.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Well, that is it, though. I think Harvard did a study on it where they were like, people who say they're more busy are less productive. When you meet a truly productive person, normally very, very successful person, they will rarely say they're busy because it's a nice excuse. I mean, my take on that, you can watch it on the Subway Takes, but it was just that basically it's just about how you want to prioritize your life. But on that anyway. And I met her through that because they did it in London and they asked me to go on. And she's a climate activist. Fascinating conversation about that. Very passionate, very impressive person. She's in her mid-20s, and she was at 17. She was she went over to America and was the head of marketing for, was it Impossible? Impossible Vegan and stuff. I think it was that or Beyond. It was one of them. And yeah, just a fascinating conversation. I love talking to people who are truly passionate about what they do. And that's another thing that can happen with creators, where that they've got so much success online, and you question, do you even care? Do you even care about this? Like, I think you're good at it, and I think you're talented at what you do. But you can tell with them, they're like, I don't think they really want to talk about making comedy sketch videos.
Whereas I feel like it completely overflows with you. It's all you want to do. It's all you want to do.
It's all I can do. Damn football, that's my two
and a good
things.
bolognese.
And a good bolognese. But genuinely, I like films as well. But we're talking before, Elena, and like, she says, this podcast. I'm like, I don't know what podcasts are good. I don't know. All I love.
This one.
Yeah, but truly.
5-star rating on Spotify.
Oh yeah, well after this one, I'm sure. Imagine if this one, all the reviews and the 1 stars come in. Like, what a terrible episode! This guy's awful. But yeah, truly, I do need parts of my life that are outside of this, because like literally for my birthday I got a Switch Lite, like one of those Nintendo things, just because I want something outside of scrolling and watching and listening to comedy and all that, and I just want something that completely takes my mind outside of it, because at the moment my life is like comedy, football, and then just trying to fit in like.
Who do you support? Come on, tell us. Give us the info.
Who do you think it is based on the way I've been evasive now? Who do you support?
Brentford.
Arsenal.
Okay, who do you think it is?
You from London?
I'm from London, yeah.
United.
Which part?
Bang.
Oh, million.
Unlucky last night.
Literally, that's why I didn't want to bring it up, because we were actually doing all right, but obviously set piece team. What can you do? 11 men behind the ball, wait for the corners. It's a good. That's why you always.
Points.
Yeah. It's like you're the Atletico Madrid of the league. It's like, that's why you always come runner up, but you're a good team, tough team to beat.
Rather that than
Any other questions you want to ask?
Yeah.
No, I think
I've thrown him with the Arsenal criticism. I've thrown him.
it's.
I've got one question that I always ask everybody at the end of the episode. So it's about life advice. So what would that be? What would you give to the next guest, regardless of who they are and what they do, that you always hold on to and think it's a good thing to pass on?
Well, it's hard because the way I go with life advice is mainly talking to people who aren't doing what they want to do. And if you talking about who your next guest is, they're probably going to be someone who is doing what they care about or what they want to do. They're probably quite successful. So I feel like the advice I'd have might be worthless to them. So what I'd say to them is probably, I'd probably say, and they might be doing this already, but be willing to lose people in the short term with whatever you're doing, to do the things that you are more passionate about and you find more original. Because I think in the long term, it'll be better for you.
I like that.
Brilliant.
I like that.
Excellent.
Wow.
I think based on our next guest, might be an interesting one.
Maybe.
I like that. Well, it's an epic episode. Enjoyed every second of it.
No,
Thanks so much
this is
for
what
coming
always
on.
happens at the end of my podcast. I say it. Always, I finish a podcast. They never say that was the funniest, that was the best. They always go, I think that was the longest one we've done. I think you didn't shut up for 1 second. But generally, this is so nice to have me on. Thank you so much. It's been really great.
Been fantastic. Really appreciate you coming on, mate. And
Pleasure's all mine.
yeah,
We're coming to your next show, wherever it is.
Come
With
down whenever I
500
got
grams of
2.
mince.
Yeah, come along. We'll have a bolognese afterwards. That'd be good, man. I've got 2 shows next week. Come along. Well, 2 of my own shows, but come along.
Wicked.
wonderful, brilliant. Cheers, mate. We'll
Thanks
see
a
you all
lot.
soon.
Cheers.